Hello everybody, and we are live for the season finale. How exciting is that? Hi Fazine, great to see you from the sunny Bay Area. I tell you, where I am, it is scorching. It may even be the hottest June day on record where I am. But we've got a lot to talk to you about today. We've got a wrap up on immigration, we've got a wrap up on tax. We're going to celebrate community trends. And also, we're going to look behind the scenes. And I'm so excited. We're bringing the other side of the camera, Tally, who I tell you, and you will believe me when we finish, is possibly the most expatty person you've ever met in your lives. We've got some amazing stories to share with you. It is going to be a great show today. So you know how it works, everybody. Join in the conversation. Write in the comments box. Tell us who you are, where you are, what you're doing, what your news is. We are available now. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on YouTube. And also you can watch us or you can hear us on Spotify if you so wish. Now, I know a lot of you do want your CPE codes, and we have CPE codes for you. We have them from our good friends at ERC. We also have them from SHRM and HRCI. Thanks to our good friends at Rocket Mortgage. So I'll put that up here now. So you've got the CPE credits, so you can see those. I'll leave those up there for a few minutes. And then, of course, we've got breaking news. Every week, we like to share some breaking news with you, what's been going on in the wonderful world of global mobility in the last 7 days. So let's have a look. Why don't we find out what's been going on in our world? And if you see a name of somebody you recognize or it's you, then hit that heart button, hit that like button, and hit the applause button. So let's see the breaking news. So there we have it. Congratulations to everyone who's been promoted. Congratulations to everyone who's got a new job. And if you're looking, well, there's plenty of jobs out there. So, and we posted some of those. But if you've got a job you want to share, then let us know. If you've got some news, again, let us know. And then the other bit of breaking news, and we'll be talking about this later on, but you probably see it on my screen behind me, the words MI 2.0. Some sequels are better than the original. So what's that about? Well, we're going to be telling you all about it in July when we're releasing, but this is mobility intelligence. This is a game changer for our industry. You need to register now. Sadly, it's corporate only for the private premiere of MI2. And trust me, you're going to be blown away by seeing what technology does for us and for all of us in the future. So I've talked a bit about breaking news, but I'm so excited. We have backstage the legendary Julia Onslow-Cole, who's going to be giving us her thoughts on what's been going on in the last few months, her season wrap up of what's been going on in immigration. So you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's welcome to our stage Julia Onslow-Cole.
Hi, Brian.
Julia. Hey. So tell us give us your thoughts on what's been happening in the last few months and indeed predictions going forward.
Yes. So really, I think, sadly, if you look at the first 6 months, nearly all of our immigration updates have been really around the Middle East crisis. So the Middle East crisis has really, dominated the agenda for the first 6 months. Also the war in Ukraine and sort of political movements across all governments, really, or many governments across the world. And I think the crisis in the Middle East was, a very big problem for many companies, particularly because they didn't have a crisis management plan, or the plan that they had was for evacuation, a bit like Ukraine, Russia, not really for the situation, which was in the Middle East, more dealing with people on a one-to-one basis. Also, I think the Middle East crisis really showed us how difficult it is to manage a situation where there is so much news, lots and lots of social media, and you're making decisions very, very quickly in very compressed timelines. And then the other thing is that a lot of the decision makers seem to be outside the region, which was another issue. And then a lot of people were allowed to work remotely, but then that was also a problem because we see that they were allowed to work remotely, but there is then lingering problems because the amount of time they spent working remotely doesn't really fit in with the, remote working policy they had. So, in addition, along the way, there were a raft of immigration issues that people had to unpack. For example, those that did use evacuation flights, although they weren't very many, you couldn't automatically take dependents. And overall, as we look at the situation now today, it is actually very tense. There is a preliminary ceasefire agreed, but there is fighting with Hezbollah and Israeli forces in the Lebanon. And most regional airspaces, although they're open, the international flights haven't, totally resumed service. And because of the security situation, there's lots of delays with the consular services. So, it is quite tense. And I really hope that over the next couple of weeks, we'll see a full settlement of the crises and that we won't have to, when we come back in the summer, I hope, Brian, that we're not going to be talking about that. The other big issue that we talked about during this first 6 months was the US. It's been incredibly uncertain, volatile, several sudden and unexpected immigration changes. It's not been a stable and predictable immigration environment. My colleagues Emily Allen and Eddie Raleigh recently talked about this, and they said, if you look at some of these big things, well, obviously last year there was the imposition of the $100,000 fee for H-1B, but then you have things like the adjustment of status, and then the vacation of the 100,000 policy. All of these things often made weekends, short notice, and they gave 3 tips, which I just want to end on. One is curate a global rapid response team, a special team just to deal with these unexpected announcements. This team is there to pull together, to use AI, to analyze the situation and to support all the analysis. Secondly, have another team that's ready to do communications, because throughout these incidents that have happened in the US, immediate and urgent need for communications has really shown itself. And so you need to be ready. And the third is have a very nimble and decision-making framework, because once you gather the information, once you've communicated to people, you've got to make those decisions quite quickly. So I thought those tips from them were very pertinent actually to the whole of the global situation. So I'm hoping that everyone has a wonderful summer holiday, and I'm looking forward to coming back in September, and I'm hoping we'll be on a happier note all around the world.
Absolutely. Amen to all that. And Julia, thank you so much for everything you do for our show and indeed for the industry, the wider industry. Really appreciated. So we're now going to move on for a tax recap over the year. So everybody, you know how it works as we say goodbye to Julia and welcome the legend that is Julie Barron onto our stage. Everybody, hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit that applause button. Hey, Julie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Yes, the tax whiz. Never been called a legend before, Brian. Oops, sorry.
Oh,
sorry.
Absolutely. Absolutely you are. So, Julie, tell us what's been going on. What's your recap of the year?
Well, it's interesting, Brian, because I had a hard time thinking, how am I going to do a recap? So I asked AI to help me. So AI has told me what I talked about, which was kind of interesting. But it did say that I did, like Julia, talk about the US a lot. We had discussions about Germany. We had some interesting updates from Belgium. We had Latin America, so we had some Brazilian updates, which were also interesting, different things happening in Brazil. I think the other thing that we talked a lot about was income tax and social security tax, a lot of EU social security tax, things like that. But on the US side, it was a lot of procedural and process. So not as much tax changes and tax updates as if you'll all remember that I talked about how the post office in the US changed their rules and how that affects our taxpayers. So sometimes it's not necessarily a tax update, but it's a process update. And just the IRS isn't going to issue paper checks anymore. Now what do we do, kind of thing. So the updates that I've given throughout the year, there's been some audit updates, there's been some income tax updates, but some of the most interesting and things that people reacted to were more around the processes and the procedures, because that's kind of what our mobility managers have to deal with a lot, is just how do we make things happen? How do we get our money back? How do we do this? So I think that that's kind of interesting when I look back over the year and see what the pattern is. But yeah, there's been a lot of interesting things. I think that there was a recent letter published by some OECD staffers about remote work and the future of remote work. So I think when we come back, we're going to have to talk about that. I do think one of the things I had teed up but didn't get to, but so I think we'll revisit in the fall, is taxation of cryptocurrency. So that's been a really hot topic. Yeah, around the world. Like, how are we going to start taxing crypto, and will we get alignment across countries, as certain countries have already declared what they're going to do with the taxation of crypto and others have not? So I think everybody can look forward to some interesting updates on what's going to happen in the world of crypto on a global perspective, because for your people moving around the world, that is going to be it's going to be a challenge to see what happens in that category. So that was my update, and that's what I'm looking forward to in the fall.
Okay, well, I'm certainly penciling myself in to hear that one about the cryptocurrency. That's
Watch out for your Bitcoin, Brian.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, so Julie, thank you so much, and have a great vacation, and we'll see you in the fall. Meanwhile, we're going to move on, and we've got backstage Laurie Rahn and Meredith Morris, who so amazingly helped out when I was off with my recent illness. So, and they've got a lot to talk about here in terms of technology and in terms of policy. So everybody, you know how it works, especially for Laurie and Meredith, and to thank the legend, and you are a legend, that is Julie Barron. Please, everybody, hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit the applause button.
survive, they live to tell. Mobility wisdom and AI tales to dwell. Meredith's got the updates, Lori's got tech. They give it their all, what did you expect? Let's give it up and there's no denying Meredith Morris and Lori Ryan.
Wow, I love the song. I love it. I love it.
That looks just like me.
Yeah, me too.
I'm guessing AI was involved.
Just a little.
So first of all, a big heartfelt thanks to both of you for stepping in. I so appreciate it. It's great to be here, and I really appreciate everything that you did. But let's just get into some of the nuts and bolts things we wanted to talk about. And I'll start with you, if I may, Laurie. I mean, you've been tracking the biggest AI developments in global mobility. And I know that, we all love AI, and I think that you're sort of right out there, at the cutting edge with everything. When we look at how fast this technology is moving, what are the most significant shifts that we've witnessed over the past year?
Oh boy, are you ready? So
one
of the things we talked about is how now wherever you go, people are using it. They're using it every day or at work. It has become pretty much ingrained with most people into their daily lives more than it has before. And there is an overwhelming feeling by almost anyone you talk to that everyone feels behind because things are changing so fast. And I think the key there then is community. We all need each other. It's impossible to keep up alone. So those are some of the key things there. And I also think people are using these tools for more than just helping write something or ask a question. They are actually building, and they have these agents. In fact, I have an example from just this weekend where I was able to have like Manus working on that video you just watched. I had Claude working on something else and ChatGPT doing something else all at the same time. And then I went for a walk. So I was like, and I came back and I'm like, thanks guys. Appreciate the work on that. So that
was a whole little tribe of AI working for you.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. And I don't know. And now I got my mom using it for 87 years old saying, look, I have it on my phone. I got desktop support right here. Now she's trying to learn how to do a screenshot. I'm like, way to go, Mom. I love it.
Oh, shout out to Laurie's mom. But let me just say, I know you can't say a lot, but can you share any insight? I mean, I've sort of hinted about, mobility intelligence to MI2. Can you just maybe give us a couple of hints or what can you share?
About hints is about all I can share because this is so tightly under wraps that even my security clearance only gives me access to just a little bit. But from what I've heard,
they have to kill you, yeah.
Exactly. And the little bit I've seen is that it is going to change how global mobility does work, right? And think about it. Can you believe it was just 1 year ago when we introduced mobility intelligence, the original? We're already helping, and it's answered 90% of employee questions, the Benevo chat, instantly. Think about that. No more Friday nights at 4 a.m. trying to get waiting 2 days for an answer on something that may not be urgent, but answering 90% of those questions immediately and taking that off the plates of folks who would normally be spending their time on those repeatable questions. We're so excited about it. And I think a key thing here with what I just talked about, with actually doing instead of just answering questions, that's going to be key here too, because this version, MI 2.0, is actually going to help take actions for people. Again, being able to say, hey, here, do this for me while I go do something else. Again, allowing teams to be more strategic.
This is the move from AI to agentic AI.
Exactly.
So cool. I mean, we're going to move on in the conversation. I want to bring Meredith in, but this is so groundbreaking that everybody, you really need to watch out for this premiere that's coming in early July, and you'll see more of it as the teaser campaign continues on LinkedIn and elsewhere. But Meredith, let me bring you into the conversation because AI clearly is one of the biggest trends, but there are other trends as well. So you've been keeping a close eye on the industry shifts that really defined 2026 so far. What were the macro trends that forced organizations to, if you like, rethink their program structures? What are the big trends you've seen?
Yeah, I would say the big trends that, that I've seen, and, I'm sure everyone's experiencing out there. And Julia kind of touched on a couple of them. Number one is the changes in immigration. It has become now a focus of cost center for a lot of organizations, and it is making them rethink their talent strategies and how they're mobilizing people. But also the geopolitical landscape. Again, Julia touched on that as well. But it is definitely with the tariffs, the geopolitical landscape. Again, it is, affecting organizations on where they're placing talent, how they're placing talent, and where they're investing as far as where they're going to put their workforce strategy and how they'll continue to, manage those movements within their own organizations. But I would also say the other thing is that we've seen mobility really shift from, over the years, but definitely more from a reactive to a strategic. And a lot of mobility professionals and many of us ourselves, we're upskilling ourselves, not just with AI, like we touched on, but upskilling in different areas, and we're diversifying our skill sets. So I've seen a lot of mobility professionals going into total rewards, going into comp and ben, maybe they're, learning global payroll. So they are definitely developing different skill sets, but also going into business travel, the work from anywhere, remote working. Our mobility professionals are taking on more and more in their job.
I think that's really important because let's face it, there has been retrenchment going on and there have been job losses in our industry. And I think, if you like, the smart thing to do is to make sure that within mobility in your organization, we're doing as much as possible. So you mentioned remote work, you mentioned business travel. I think right to work checks as well is another area that fits within what we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, the landscape has been changing, but I feel like it's changing by leaps and bounds. And, as a mobility professional, myself and everyone that's out there, we are having to stay on top of these trends and, learn new skills very quickly. AI being one of them, but there's many more that we're having to add to our portfolio in order to show value to the business.
And let me just come in. One other question I wanted to ask you, Meredith, is we've talked about these industry changes. Obviously, we're all with Benevo. How are these changes driving more companies to evaluate integrated solutions like the Benevo relocation services?
Yeah, so I would say the number one thing that I see is that organizations are being pushed to streamline efficiency in their programs. And so we're seeing a lot of companies that are working in fragmented systems, still on spreadsheets, some of them working across 5, 6, 7, 8 different systems are now looking at integrating those specific solutions. They're looking for a sole solution in order to manage their whole program. I also see a lot of data fragmentation. So that's huge as well, because teams are having to pull data from multiple different sources. They don't own their data. Their data sits with XYZ provider. And so they're looking for solutions in order to have that data, because that's where that piece comes to being, leveraging as far as your skill set of being more of, a strategic player versus a reactive player. So, and I see that organizations are wanting to streamline and get their native data. And so they're moving to solutions like Benevo, where not only do we have a SaaS robust technology, but we're also providing relocation services and flexible models, because the workforce is changing. We've got 5 generations in the workforce, number one, and not all of those get the same type of services. So I'm seeing policies change. We're going with core flex or more managed budget to give these specific employees in these different generations, ways of using the services that are valuable to them, right? Because maybe I don't need a household goods move because all I own is a TV and a recliner. So what? I'll take my TV, I donate my recliner, and I would rather have my car moved or move my 2 dogs. And they're allowing them that flexibility, but that also plays into improved employee experience. And that is a retention strategy and a talent attraction strategy. So mobility is aligning with talent management, a lot more. So having these flexible benefits and having a solution that can manage those different means and that flexibility throughout the workforce changes, I think that's huge within our industry.
I think that's such a great point because, you know, a lot of people, to be honest, will think of Benivo and they'll think it's a, you know, tech company, and they don't get the fact that actually we do relocation services through our extensive supply chain. And that actually that's a model that can be put together without even touching an RMC in many cases, that people can do it directly. So it's a whole new model. And when we get onto all this AI that we've got and this agentic AI that we've got coming, it is just mind-blowing what the tech can do. But we're now going to be moving on. I'm so excited that we're actually going to turn the cameras inward, and we're going to bring our producer on as the amazing Dr. Tali Gorin as our special guest. And her life story and her expat story and some of the stuff she's going to talk about is amazing. I've been trying to persuade her for years to be this side of the camera, but we've finally done it for our season finale. And trust me, everybody, you are going to love this. So as we say goodbye and thank you to Meredith and to Laurie, and especially, you know, for me personally, the way you stood in when I was unwell was so appreciated. And we're going to welcome to the stage the woman who makes everything happen with The View from the Top. Like you've never done it before, everybody. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit the applause button. So Tali, welcome to this side of the camera.
It is so strange to be on this side and seeing this video. I prepared this video so many times before, and this time on myself. Yeah, that was.
And I can see the hearts and the loves and the likes and what have you coming up on the screen. But Tali, I've got to say, you know, you are the most expatty person I've ever met in my life, and I want to find out a bit about, you know, about you, your background. As I mean, you've got to be the eternal expat. I mean, you know, you move. I mean, where are you? Where are you today? Right here, right now. Where are you?
At the moment, I'm in Sofia, which
In
doesn't
Bulgaria.
Bulgaria. Yeah. Which doesn't mean that I'm going to be here tomorrow, because we're going to the Nomad Festival in Bansko, which is our home ground, and then to the village where we also live in Bulgaria. But yeah, that's now our last station in a crazy nomadic lifestyle.
Tell us about this nomadic lifestyle. Because how many cities have you lived in your life? Name some of them. I know you've lived on many continents. Just tell us about where you've lived.
Yeah, we moved right after we got married, which was 30 years ago. We moved to California, to the Silicon Valley, and then to upstate New York when we had our firstborn, then to Boston when we had the second, then to Australia. And we experienced different types of relocations where we can talk about it later. But yeah, Australia was just as students and with two little kids, and then back to Israel for a bit, because that's where we're originally from. We needed the kids to get a bit of Israeli identity, and then Singapore for 4 years, and then Hong Kong, and then back to Israel. And then to this tiny island in Belize, which I think you're going to ask me a little bit about.
No, I'm super excited, because if anybody's ever watched White Lotus, I tell you, this was Tali's life running an island. And we're going to get onto that in a bit. So, but you've lived in so many different countries and so many different cultures, and you work remotely for everybody, which is just amazing. You've worked, you know, for various companies, well-known companies in our industry. But tell us about it. I mean, how did moving across all those different countries and cultures shape your personal perspective on mobility before you even joined Benivo?
So I think to me, global mobility was really the place to be. This is my natural home. I started as a private consultant. Then I joined Serva, which was an amazing experience in Hong Kong. And then another relocation service provider in Israel. But I think that my personal experience always gave me this viewpoint, the personal viewpoint to understand things. And actually, it's funny because this is also how I got to Benevo, because after this island thing that we're going to talk about, I was looking to go back to global mobility, to the business, and I was looking for global mobility news. And guess where I found global mobility news?
The View from the Top.
I saw this really charming host and a very excited CEO who was, you were interviewing Nitzan back then, and he was talking about the platform. And this is exactly the thing, being an expert, and many times being an expert myself, and oh guys, I need to push the comments while talking. That's not easy. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Look at this one. Hang on. Bring back Javier's one.
Yeah.
Bring that one back. He said, wow, Tally, you're an entire mobility book by yourself. You may need at least 3 volumes to be published to cover your story. I'll tell you what, Javier, every hour, Tally has actually written a book about her island experience, and I've read it, I've reviewed it. It's amazing. And we will give a link out for that later.
Thank you, Laurie. Laurie already shared it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Island time.
But we're running too fast.
We'll get onto that in a moment. But just before we do, one question. I mean, we're talking about, culture. Your kids traveled with you, as you went around the globe. So they've also lived in many places. How do you think that's affected them in terms of them being citizens of the world?
Yes, where I started actually dipping my feet into the global mobility was when I was introduced to the term culture kids, and this is what actually portrays my kids. This is the characteristics. So yes, they've grown between cultures. They have that embedded in them. It's kids who grow up in this kind of lifestyle. They're different. They have this. Their identity is created by these moves between the cultures, and I can definitely see that on my kids. They have their own choices. One of them lives now in Padova. The other one is now in Israel, but it's for them, the world is their playground. And not only that, but you can also see the way that they perceive other cultures, other people. They have a very unique way of viewing other people behind their actual, shadow traits. It's a very different way of perceiving cultures and identities.
Okay, we've got to move on to talk about the island, because I know you've lived everywhere, and a lot of places you've been are pretty interesting and fascinating places, but equally, California, New York, Hong Kong, Singapore, Sydney, wherever you've been, they're places that we're familiar with. But you did something very, very different. You and your husband, a shout out to Michael, you and your husband decided to get a job running an island. Just tell us how that even came about, and show us some pictures. Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah. Before I show the picture, I'll just say that it was really completely unexpected, and we never had any experience in hospitality, and it was COVID, and we were stuck at home. I was working back then for an Israeli relocation service provider, and we were at home. I was working on my computer. He was working on his computer. And suddenly this message came. A couple is needed to manage an island. And they were looking for a couple without kids. So our kids were already out of the nest. And so we were like, that's actually something that we thought about like 10 years ago when we were in the Maldives. But can we even apply to something like that? And we just took a leap of faith, and we just jumped in and we applied. And we had eventually they didn't really want any experience in hospitality because it was so different from anything else. So yeah, let me show you what this island is.
Let's show this. And first of all, everybody, you are about to be blown away. So this is what you manage. This was an island resort. I mean, to me, it looks like a Maldives resort, but it's not.
Yeah, it's in the Caribbean. It's in the Caribbean, in Belize. And yeah, the size of it's the tiniest island. It's a luxury resort for divers and fishermen, and they were basically looking for someone with diving experience. And just so you can understand how small this thing is, if you start walking straight from one point in the island and you just walk straight, you're going to end up in the same point after 10 minutes. That's it. So this is what it will take for you to go all around the island. So it's that tiny.
Ferzine wants to know, where did you find the opportunity? Is there a website? I wonder Ferzine wants to run an island.
Actually, it's the simplest. It was really just a job board, and my husband just had a constant agent that was automatic agent looking for the word relocation. So we love relocations. We moved around the world, as I said, and we just love that. And by the time during COVID, this is what we wanted. We wanted to go out. So we were looking for relocation, and we just had this agent calling for any relocation opportunities. And this opportunity just popped, and we pursued it. So yeah.
Just tell us, you're running this island. I mean, how many staff did you have working with you, and how many guests did you have?
So yeah, just so you see, it's a really luxurious resort. It's a beautiful place. We had between 60 and 70 employees in total, but it really changed based on the number of the guests. So we joined the island during COVID. So at the first year of COVID, the island was closed. So one of the big tasks that we had was actually technical, to just open the island after 1 year of lockdown. And with every property that is near the sea, there's a lot of deterioration. So there was a lot of work to do there, and lots of employees that agent back in 2020. Yeah, the agents on the job boards were there all, since long time ago.
I mean, this was like people had to fly to Belize and then take a boat across or something to get there. It was extremely remote.
Yes. So you needed the employees to even just start it, and then to take care of the guests. So that was changing, and that was part of the management, just getting these rotations, which are a real hard thing to operate, because you have to send some people and bring some people, and especially during COVID time, when you have also lots of limitations on people, how many people can be together at one point, how can you bring guests from outside and without them actually touching the ground in the city itself.
I'm just conscious of time. There's so much to talk about here. Show us some other photos and tell us a bit about.
Actually, the next photo aligns with Lori's question. Was it time to relax? Yes, Lori.
Oh, yes. Look at that.
So actually, this was my favorite. I'm diving since I was 4 years old, so I love diving. And that was the biggest perk of the island. We got once a week, we'd go to the Blue Hole, and we'd dive 40 meters deep and into a huge cave under the water with sharks. It was amazing experience.
Hi, I think we've lost Tally. Oh no, you're back, Tally.
I'm here. Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. Yeah.
But yes. So the divings were amazing, and definitely we had time to have to go diving, to go kayaking, but we also had a lot of work. So this is just a typical day in the office. So we needed to test all the cocktails. A very difficult part of the job. Would you take that, Brian?
That looks good. Yeah, I mean it's a tough job, but someone's got to do it. Testing all those cocktails. Yeah.
Someone needs to do that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and of course diving with the guests, and then getting the rooms ready for the the guests that are coming, because it's a really luxurious resort. So
well, I mentioned White Lotus, and you did have moments of tragedy as well. And I know you had one particular situation where you had a fatality. Just tell us about that. I mean, because again, that's something that I think as mobility professionals, we hear about these things, but you were experiencing.
Yeah, that's true. I hope that we're still on, but you froze, Brian. But yes, if we're going back to White Lotus,
Hi,
then,
can you hear me, Tali?
Yeah. Do you hear me? Yeah. Brian, can you hear me?
Hello, Tali.
Yeah. I'm here.
I'm not sure where this problem is, whether it's my end or your end, or what's going on. If it's my end,
okay,
then
but you're referring to the White Lotus, and actually, Lori also referred to it. So I actually want to say that sometimes, when I watched White Lotus, I was kind of hoping that would have been our situation on the island, because at some point.
I'm bringing Meredith on because we're having a problem here. Meredith, if the problem is my end, can you carry on with the interview?
Absolutely. I would love to, because this is really a fascinating story. So that's cool. I could be back on. Hey, everybody. All right, Tali, let's hear it. We're getting into you're leaving us on a cliffhanger.
Yes. Brian mentioned the White Lotus, and what I said is that sometimes we wished it was the White Lotus, because if you saw the White Lotus, when something happened there, immediately you got the police coming, you got the ambulances, everyone was off the place and into the hospital, into the morgue if needed. And that was not really the situation on the island. And on the island, evacuation is a tough one. And so you really need to take care of everything on your own. And yes, we did have, we had 6 sick employees. We had in the middle of the storm, in the middle of the night, and then you have to figure a way to somehow take care of them until the morning, because it's too dangerous to evacuate them in the middle of the night. And yes, we did have even a fatality. I'm not going to talk about it today. I don't want to ruin the environment.
Let's move on a bit. I'll keep Meredith. I'm not sure what's going on with the technology there, but it actually leads to a bit of a segue here, because just in case I drop or something, the conversation will continue. But Tali, you've been our show producer for the last 4 years or so. So tell us, people can see that things snag. So what are the things that, go on behind the scenes to deliver a live, interactive global broadcast to hundreds of viewers every single week? And obviously, as we've just seen, things do go wrong from time to time with technology. So tell us about.
You see what happens when I'm not in the green room? I should be in the green room. This is my place.
Back to you, Gary. So tell us about how you actually go about producing the show.
So I think it's fair to say that what you see on the show is like the cherry on the top of a lot of work that is going on behind the scenes. The two of us, Brian, and really whenever we have every week we have a guest. So before the show, we want to bring you, the audience, we want to bring you only the best stories, the most interesting inputs from each one of our guests. And so we're inviting our guests always for a prep call, and we have long prep calls in which we talk, we hear about the guest's journey, the guest's program. And together we're trying to find a good angle, an interesting angle that we will bring to the show. And after that starts the preparation of the show. I have to say that just, Lori mentioned AI, and we definitely engaged AI a lot this year And AI is a partner in these prep calls, and it's actually a really special experience because it's like another team member sitting in the room, and it's listening to the conversation. It can come up with insights, with ideas. So we were doing these conversations, and during the conversation, AI will suggest, okay, how about look at this topic? And then we can talk to the guest and ask, do you think this is a good topic to discuss? Should we dive into that? What about, should we ask this or that? So that has been a really big advancement in the way that we can produce the show. And of course, once we have the topic, this is just the beginning of all the preparation for getting it live.
As Michelle said, it's so much work behind the scenes, and yet you make it look so easy. It reminds me of a swan. You know, the old joke about, or the old line about a swan. It's sort of, you know, it's going sort of peacefully and gracefully along, but underneath the surface, its little feet are paddling like mad to keep it going. And it's hard, and I know sometimes it can be quite stressful as well, because, you know, we have a situation where we have a guest lined up, and then for one reason or another they get called into a meeting or they can't make it, and then we've got to find another one at short term. Because the one thing that's got to happen is every week the show has got to go out. You know, the show always must go on.
The show must go on.
We're balancing people around. We're moving diaries. We're seeing what we can do. Tell us a bit about that.
And actually, it's a good time for a shout out to Michelle. And also Adnan, my wonderful team that was helping this season and this year, helping produce the show. So yeah, without them, it wouldn't have happened. But yes, so we have a lineup of guests, and we try to work with this to plan as much time ahead as possible. But you know, global mobility. As people have emergencies and they can't join. So luckily we have a wonderful team in Benevo, and that we can always count on. And, you know, when we don't have a guest from outside, we bring the guest from Benevo, we go into an interesting client story. There's always really interesting things to bring. And actually, I see here a comment from one of the show's frequent guests. So Ferzin, you've been on the show, I think 3 or 4 times, and you've been amazing.
Shout out to our friend Ferzin, yeah.
Yeah, a good friend of the show. So Ferzin, you want to read
I'll read it. She says this. She's talking here about your White Lotus moment on your island in the Caribbean. You said this is very real. While rare, fatalities do occur. Mobility professionals need both the right contacts and the empathy to support employees and families through difficult situations. It can also be invaluable for employees to share their mobility contact information with family members, who are often the first people involved when an emergency occurs. That's a great point. And you see, I know you said to me, we were chatting earlier, you said one of the things that you learned from the island is that most of us, you know, we go on vacation somewhere and we never actually think about, you know, what could go wrong? You know, is there a hospital nearby? What's the situation? How have we prepared? Even sometimes taking, you know, extra medication if we need medication for longer than our vacation days in case we get sort of stranded somewhere. So do you now sort of think about things in a different way when you move from city to city compared to now you've actually had the experience of being, you know, on an island where something dreadful happened?
I'm the eternal optimist, so it's hard for me to say that I changed my behavior. But yeah, it made me think, because you know, one thing I can say, and this is something, and again, you know, I don't need to say that to the community that is watching us. Most of the people that are watching us are global mobility professionals, so they know how important that is. But sometimes I'm meeting fellow expats, and the one thing that people sometimes tend to neglect is really health situations and health insurance. So health insurance is something that has to be in place. It's not, and you know, people have to understand to really go deep into the question of, is it a travel insurance? Is it an expat insurance? There's a big difference between the two. And this is something that needs to be really clear. But having said that, and most of the time we have these temporary, when we move around, we have these kind of temporary insurances. We sometimes, when we move a lot, we don't have a regular doctor that is watching us. So this is something that really we need to be aware of and to take care of. Medical situation, medical continuity. When you live in one place, you have your own doctor. Your doctor is following up on you. They can check. They can make sure that you did all your tests. They know how old you are. You know what you're prone to. When you're an expat, these are things that you have to follow yourself. You have to track yourself and make sure that you don't neglect them.
I want to move the conversation on a bit now and turn it back to, you left the island, you joined Benevo, and now, of course, we've got this hugely exciting Mobility Intelligence 2, MI2 release coming up next month. And I know you're very heavily involved in that with a different hat on. Can you tell us a bit about the operational preparations for this launch? I mean, tell us a bit about what people can expect and how the launch is going to happen, and a bit about your role in all that.
Yeah. I actually started telling you at the very beginning about this excited CEO that I saw back then, who from him I actually got to know this Benevo platform, and he made me think, oh my God, this is an amazing thing. I have to get it. And the next thing I did was contact him, and you see me now here. That's Nitzan, and he's not resting. So when he has something exciting that he wants to bring, he'll bring it in the biggest way possible. So he brought the platform with this show. He presented MI1 on this show, but now that he has MI2, and MI2 is like really something big, something different, something that is gonna make a big change in the market. So for him, just a regular meetup or Google Meet or StreamYard or LinkedIn, that was not enough. No, he wants something big. So for that, he needed me to go ahead and learn from scratch a whole new platform. And well, I did that. So there's going to be a lot of surprises. We're not going to just see, a talking head like here. This is now too simple for him. Now we're going to see, okay, I'm not going to say, but it's going to look completely different. It's going to be huge. And I really recommend people to join, because apart from the actual news, the actual tool that he's going to share there, the whole presentation is going to be completely different and really exciting. So yeah, okay. there's something to wait for.
Okay, and if people go onto the Benevo.com platform, they can find somewhere where they can register for the premiere.
I can actually share it right now.
Multitasking, back screen and front screen at the same time. So there we go. The private premiere. It's going to be a red carpet only event.
Yes.
It's going to be. And talking of red carpet only events, Tali, you are now a published author. You've written a book. So tell us a bit about the book. And I must say to everybody, here it is, island time, locked in paradise, because it was lockdown time, wasn't it? It was COVID time.
It was COVID. It was lockdown. And I think it was just it was the title was just waiting there. It was just, yeah. But yeah, this is the book, and Lori will share the link to Amazon. It would be great if people to read, because there's so much so many stories. And actually that was the thing. We left the island, and there were so many things that we needed to tell, and also people were asking us so many questions. So whenever I mentioned it, this happened with you, this happened with so many other people. I just mentioned that I was managing an island, and boom, all the questions come.
It's not the story you can just say, I was managing an island. To you that sounds very blasé. Oh, I was just managing an island. I mean, to me, it's like, what? That's amazing. Now, in terms of the book, and it is available on Amazon. I've read it. It's fascinating. I know you have changed some of the names, haven't you, to protect?
Of course, yes, of course.
But so the stories are real, but you've just given a little cloak so that you're not sort of protecting it. You're not upsetting anybody's identity. Yeah.
That's true. So we needed to find a way to tell everyone what happened there without going into the details again and again and again. And I must say that when I was working now on editing it, and I have to another shout out to AI, because I had a lot of help from my two best friends, Gemini and Claude. And it was really funny to see how the two interacted between themselves, because Gemini was so nice and supportive, and oh yes, this chapter is written so beautifully, but maybe you can change this little thing and this little stuff. And Claude, being aggressive and straightforward, was like, no, that's not good. You have to change it. You have to. It was so funny to see.
Explain to me, because you're a lot more at the cutting edge than I am, sadly. I need to get myself. Why do you use two? Why are we using Gemini and Claude? Why don't you just use one? What's the point of bouncing one off the other?
So one thing is what I just said. They have different personalities, and the way they approach the data is very different. And another thing is, and I mentioned it earlier when we talked before the show, but I'm fascinated by AI. I think this is amazing. What it allowed for me. This book was originally written in Hebrew, and it took me 5 years to translate it and edit it and rewrite it in English, because back at the time, I had to send it to a translator. Now I could do it with Gemini. After 2 years, I could just send one chapter at a time, and it wouldn't keep the same voice. Now I could send the whole book, but still, it was beautiful to get two versions, one from Gemini, one from Claude, and play with these two versions in order to find my own voice. And one thing that I told you before, I am fascinated by AI, but I think that the superpower that we need to develop, the skill that we need to develop as AI savvy, is how to criticize AI, because sometimes we're getting a beautiful result, but it doesn't have really a good content behind it. So we need to develop our criticism, and having a few tools that give you a few answers, and then the overlap between them would give you really the best quality of product.
Yeah. So I think on that, I'm going to bring Laurie and Meredith.
Laurie, you just said that's what is fascinating about working with different tools, different personalities. Yes, the different perspectives. True. Yeah.
And sometimes it is nice to have Claude tell it to you straight and direct, and not try to blow whatever up your.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah.
I mean, I find the same thing. I am working across multiple agents. I didn't even know what a gem was a year ago, and Lori had to teach me. So I'm not one that's been fast tracking.
And look at you now.
Look at me now. I got multiple gems and I got multiple agents.
But what about in your personal life? Which agent do you prefer, just for asking sort of general stuff?
Claude.
Okay. Laurie?
Here's what's interesting. I do like Claude, but sometimes old habits, how you used to just go to Google automatically? Yeah. Sometimes I'm still so used to going to ChatGPT. Yeah. I go there first, and I have to remind myself to go to Claude.
To me, it's Gemini.
You're Gemini. So you're a Gemini girl.
I am a Gemini girl, and my God, it became part of my life. I'm telling you, I'm doing gardening. We live now in the village in Bulgaria. And I take photos of the weeds that are growing in my garden and asking Gemini, should I pull this out or not? Things like that, to this level. Yeah. Or how can I cook this? What can I do with that?
Oh yeah, you can redecorate your whole house. You just take a picture and go, show me what my house would look like if I do this.
Oh yeah, my kids do that. They'll take a photo of a piece of furniture in a store that they think of buying, and then ask you to put it in their house, and they can see what it looks like in their house. Yeah. It's just it. Anyway, we haven't got time. We are out of time on a subject that probably we could spend the next 5 years talking about, and no doubt will one way or another, because it is
But
dominating.
luckily that we have the MI2 premiere. We're going to talk a lot about AI there and what AI can do for you, and especially in the mobility sphere. So register.
And exactly, and in the words of the song, you ain't seen nothing yet. You know what there's going to come down the road, what you're going to see in July, we promise you is going to absolutely blow you away. With that, we are out of time. Many thanks. They've had to go to business meetings, but many thanks to Julie Onslow-Cole and Julie Barron. Many thanks to everybody backstage who's helped us, to Michelle, to Adnan, to everybody else who helps us. Many thanks, of course, to Meredith and to Laurie and to Tally, always our wonderful producer, but today our even more wonderful guest, but above all to you, the audience. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a great, great vacation. The view from the top is going away for a while now. The show. What's her name?
Mabel.
Oh, Mabel. Mabel. On that note, it's definitely goodbye from all of us. Everybody have a great, great week, and we'll see you all soon with the big reveal.
Bye.
Bye.